Jeff Ogilvy survives Wingfoot.
Now the moment Aaron Badley has waited for.
Gary Webb is the 5-time Australian Open champion.
Golf at its best by one of the best in golf, Peter Thompson.
Stand in front of a crowd like this today and win the PGA Championship is pretty special.
He's done it at last. Greg Norman.
Matt Jones gets his name on the Stonehaven Cup.
Lee's been to 11 under. Now we've got a new leader, kids.
There it is, Adam Scott, a life changer.
Coming up next, you have unrestricted access to golf across Australia and the world. Thanks to Golf Australia, we're going inside the ropes. Subscribe now on iTunes or your favourite podcast app, or head to golf.org.au.
G'day everybody, welcome to the show. It is Inside the Ropes, episode number 33. Bit of a new look, or a different look to Inside the Ropes this week. I'll explain more in a moment. Mark Hayes is the standard, of course. He is always here. Hello, Hayes.
I'm nothing if not average, Andy.
You're more than average. You are regular, like Metamucil.
You've called me a lot of things on this show. I never thought Metamucil would be one of them, but thank you for having me along again.
Keep us nice and regular. We look over the other side of the desk today, and it's not the first time that we've had Stacey Peters as part of the show, but you're sort of more a guest the last time you were part of the panel. The guest days are gone. You're now very much part of the family, Stace. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to the year ahead.
There's a lot to talk to you about in terms of what you've been up to recently. There's a certain someone who's sitting alongside you, though, who was going to be our feature interview on the show today, but he's got nothing else to do. So we thought, bugger it, we'll just make the big fella earn his keep today, and he can just be part of the show. Jarrod, Lyle, welcome to Inside the Ropes.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're not going to get stuck into now that he's here from the start, Hayesy, we'll just do the regular bits and pieces, keep the regular flow of the show going.
And we will do that feature interview.
We'll do that. We'll get to that eventually.
We just wanted to warm up to it, that's all.
Just ever so briefly, how are you travelling?
Good. Yeah, no, everything's good. I've got a day off hospital today, so I thought I'd bring the eyebrows out and we'd come and have a chat.
I was just talking about that. There's nothing anywhere, but the eyebrows are back and the mo is starting to flow. You've got a bit going on here.
Yeah, I'm. You know, Brian, the girls call me sort of Guido now. They reckon I look a little bit Italian. So, rocking the black hair on the eyebrows. And I actually had to shave in between the eyebrows so I didn't have the old mono the other day.
Keep the mono down.
That's where the Guido comes from.
Cleaned it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I know. It's
incredible portent for where this is going to go.
Anyway, stay tuned, folks. Rebecca Artis is going to join us a little bit later on. Stace, we'll talk to you about what you've been up to. We spoke to you on the phone, was it 2 weeks ago now, about the major amateur event in Singapore, which we'll chat to you about. But we'll just roll through the regulation affairs of the week. And we saw something pretty extraordinary happen in Mexico in the WGC event. Justin Thomas, from a poor start, rallied in the third round to get himself back into the mix. And then the last 2.5 hours of that was compelling. Others stuck their nose in and out of the frame, but in the end it came down to Phil at 47 and Thomas, who is the brightest of bright young things on the global golf tour right here, right now, going head-to-head. And it was fantastic to watch.
It was extraordinary. The tournament probably didn't have the field that it wanted for a WGC event, which is a different story altogether. But that was all sort of lost in the ether when those two were slugging it out there at the end. It was fantastic and just some incredible golf towards the end. I mean, what a way for Thomas to finish. And remember, he was even par through 36 holes.
Yeah.
So he's shot on a par 71 course. I think he shot 62
on the Saturday. Yeah.
And so what's that, 9 under? Then he shot another 63 on Sunday. I mean, extraordinary golf cap with an eagle on the last to effectively get into the playoff.
And the Eagles are 2 on a 4, so it holes out from the fairway, which is just out of this world stuff, really.
Yeah. So then you actually thought at that stage, I did, that Phil was going to get rolled over. But to his credit, he just hung fat, Andy, as you like to say, and became, I think, I was just looking it up here, he's become the 9th oldest guy since 2000 to win on the PGA Tour, which is quite a phenomenal thing. And most of these people are Fred Funk and Kenny Perry. So, it's an incredible achievement at that level, because all the other ones are, largely speaking, much lesser events than a WGC. So phenomenal. And Phil has an eye for 50 tour wins. I think he's got 43 at the moment, and he made it fairly clear afterwards that he wanted to get to 50. So that would be some sort of achievement.
And I think also you've got to mention Phil's short game. I saw a stat just the other day of his short game last week. He got up and down 18 out of the 22 greens that he missed. And his putting was, I think it was 65 from 69 inside 10 feet.
Jesus.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. I saw it a couple of days ago, the stat from the weekend.
So when you got a short game like that,
that's
Jarrod,
scrambling.
That's unbelievable. When you got a short game like that and you can do what he can do around the green, how much pressure does that take off your long game?
Oh, it takes everything off it. And you can see that by the way he's played his whole career. You know, he's always been one of the widest drivers, one of the guys who's always down the bottom of the driving accuracy and greens hitting regulation, but he's always at the top of his short game. And, you know, when you've got that, there is no pressure because you can hit it in the jungle, pitch it out, and he knows from anywhere from 110 yards and in, you know, he's that good that he can get it up and down. And the thing that I like about Phil at the moment is his confidence in his own ability. Like, for 5 months, he's been saying he will win again. He will win again. And he just kept saying it's getting closer and closer and closer. And he's, you know, the start he's had to this year has been incredible. For a guy of 47, you know, whether you sort of sit there and you think he's almost past his use-by date a little bit, but he's just come out there this year and he's played and he's taken it to these young guys. And, you know, to see a 47-year-old and a 20-something-year-old Justin Thomas in the playoff and, you know, the old guy get up, it's good to see.
So it was his first win since Muirfield 2013, the Open Championship. It was his first win in 94 starts. So it feeds into this whole thing that he was telling us. And Phil says a lot of stuff. Like he does say a lot of stuff. So you probably take, you know, a lot of it with a bit of a grain of salt. But he's been telling us that the game's been in good nick. He's had top 10 since that last win from the 94 starts, 23 of them. But, as you just said, Jarrod, his last 4 starts have been a tie 5 Phoenix, tied 2 Pebble Beach, tied 6 Genesis, wins Mexico. So he has clearly been feeling something, Stace, that has been telling him, and you guys know, you both played at the elite level.
I hate that you don't look at me when you say that.
Oh,
it really guts me.
I know, sorry about that. But
there's obviously some good form coming in, and he's obviously peaking with his confidence level, and he knows when he was talking about that, you know, I can win again. Obviously the signs were there.
And if you know, you know, right? Like if you know that you're starting to hit it the right way, then you just know. And so therefore his confidence levels are born from the fact that A, he knows what he has to do to win at this level, and B, he feels like he's playing well enough for the first time in a long time to get back into the frame where he might actually salute, and lo and behold, he has.
Yeah. And I don't think that 52 wins is out of the equation.
He'd have to buck the trend, though, wouldn't he, Hayesy? Like, to do
massively.
that is one win since 2013 doesn't necessarily translate to 7 more in the rest of his career in a hurry because, as we've been talking about for a long time, the depth of the men's game has exploded in the last decade, probably even in the last 5 years. You see what's coming into the game out of like Appy Barnrat continues to stand up. And then there are a flotilla of players coming from lesser golfing nations, and I say that in inverted commas, into the upper levels of the game now.
And just as you normally do when I say with all due respect, because I haven't got much for Kenny Perry, but with all due respect to Kenny Perry, those events that he won weren't the WGCs. They weren't the second tier events below the majors. They were, you know, bit of far-flung sort of arrangements that Kenny Perry would roll up to. As good as he was late in his 40s, and I do doff my lid to him there. But you can't see Phil mucking around with the lower, you know, at the shallow end of the pool. I don't think if he's going to play a schedule, it's going to be focusing on the top end of town. So I think his challenge is a bit harder than it otherwise might be, if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely. Well, it does because he's teeing it up against much stronger fields than the fields that a couple of the guys who were of a similar vintage were beating to put themselves. So with a view from where he is now, with a view to Augusta, anyone around here going to think that he is a lot? Would anyone around here have him in your top 5 chances to win the Masters?
Oh, I think it has to be up there, showing the form that he showed the last few months. I think you'd be crazy to be crossing him off. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got him in the mix? Yep.
Yeah,
I think so.
I've got him in the top 10. I just think that course is built for him.
Yeah.
You know, it puts incredible pressure on your short game, and he's the man, as Stace says.
So Justin Thomas gets beaten first hole of the playoff, but he loses no friends as a result of that. How is this guy? You can argue the merits of the numbers all you like, and the bloke who is number one at the moment is still playing reasonably solid golf. So he's not fallen over Dustin Johnson, but it does make a bit of a mockery of the numbers that this bloke hasn't found a way to somehow ascend to number one, given what he's done since he missed the cut at the Open last year. He's played 15 times since then. He's won 4. He's had 8 top 10s. He's had 12 top 20s in those 15 events. His worst finish is T47 at the Bridgestone. His record since missing that Open is a joke how good it is. Like, it's just phenomenal what Justin Thomas is doing.
It's nearly a little mind-boggling that he's actually not number one. Listening to those numbers there, I didn't know them. And I mean, I probably don't understand the ranking system enough, but you would say
you
he's...
in Mensa?
Yes.
You would definitely say he's the best golfer in the last year, yeah?
Oh, I would think you have to say that. No one's got a record.
It would be a very close race between him and Dustin, obviously, as the best golfer in the last sort of 12 months. But going on the last 6 months, you can't go past Justin Thomas.
Whose game would you rather have?
Oh, mate, I'd love to have Dustin's driving, Justin's chipping, putting. You know, it'd be a good mixture to have both of their games. But I think right now you'd take Justin's game over everybody's.
I'll take the one he doesn't want. I'm happy with either.
Well, he leads. I mean, I just had a quick look at his stats last night for this. You know, where he sits at the moment. But for par 3, the only moderately kind of weak link in his game at the moment is scoring on par 3s. And he's only marginally, like 0.06 over par, his stroke average on par 3s. Everywhere else, he is munching the game of golf. Par 4 performance is a joke. What he does, he's averaging 3.9 on par 4s. He's 4.5 on par 5s. So when you step onto a tee and you know that you're going to play on average under the card on par 4s and par 5s, it gives you a fair leg up in terms of setting a score that is going to be competitive. Like it just gives you a massive head start.
There's no par 5 that can contain him or Dustin Johnson now. And we'll touch on that later when we talk about the ball distance.
Well, talk about it now because Titleist, that's been one of the red hot talking points.
I don't want to make this about Titleist, to be honest. I don't want to rain on your parade.
No, but they did come out this weekend.
They did. I think they're proactive, and I'll give them that.
Yep.
But I think it's much more to do with other things. Before we talk about that, can I just mention another?
Oh no, we do need to mention someone else.
Huge name before we branch away. We talked about Phil not winning since the 2013 Open Championship. Well, there's someone who also had quite a drought, Andy, and she was phenomenal at the weekend, and that's Michelle Wee. Broke a drought from the 2014, I think, Women's US Open. She's the great coulda, woulda, shoulda story of modern golf, either gender, and she's almost now put her name back into the big picture again. It was waning, I think, Stace. I'm not sure what your thoughts on that are, but down in the mid-20s, trending south in the rankings, and suddenly, all of a sudden, she's bobbed up again with an enormous performance.
Yeah, it was awesome, wasn't it? I mean, I think everybody was probably rooting for Nelly Corder a little bit that round, just because for the sisters to be going back to back. But then we can touch on that after. But for Michelle to get over the line and with that putt on the last, I mean, yeah, it was awesome, wasn't it? And not winning, since I think 2014, wasn't it, at Pinehurst? I think.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I mean, she Andy was the one who probably lost the formative years of her career chasing a men's dream, which is patently stupid in my eyes. But, you know, that's the path she chose with her presumably family and management.
Who was pushing that, obviously dollar signs there, I guess.
Yeah.
But she really has been one that's persisted. She's had the same coach for, Ledbetter, I think, since she was 13. I mean, you don't see that often, I think, in the women's game a lot. You know, there's a lot of chops and changes. And
especially with the amount of times she's changed strokes and swings and
look
putting
at her style.
styles.
Exactly. I mean, she seems like she's changed everything, but with the same team around her.
Amazing.
You know, I kind of respect that a lot.
Can you think of anyone in the game who's done it so radically as she, man or woman, who's changed the shape of her game or his game the way that Michelle Wee has.
And you
I can't think of anyone.
It's so visibly noticeable.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't even have to be into the technical side of golf, I guess.
Exactly.
To see that.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
my
true.
nan could pick up that she's changed her putting stroke. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
do
yeah.
absolutely know what you mean.
So it's big changes that she's been making, and hats off to her that she's persisted with it, and she's had another win. I mean, it's awesome.
It must be hard for these young phenoms of any sport who come in at as a young teenager, who get courted by the big apparel companies, and they attach themselves to the big brands, and they get into the machine, and then they become a bit of a commodity almost. And I wonder whether if Michelle Wee had her time over again, she might do it a bit differently.
Yeah,
It's hard to
maybe
know, isn't it?
maybe her bank balance wouldn't, but I mean it's hard to say. Chasing all those men's events, like what's that doing for one's confidence, and missing cuts all the time against the men. I mean, it wouldn't even be that fun, would it? Hanging out with
No.
what was the situation with locker room and that there when she?
That's a good question. No, these are really good questions.
I don't know, it's not going to be that social out there for her, is
And
it
she
either?
became detached from a lot of people.
Her and
So,
her family, I guess.
Yeah. I think she'd look back and change it, to be honest.
I think she would too. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, hers is a talent that is extraordinary, and we haven't seen the best of it, and that's a real pity. She's the needle mover of the women's game, period. You can say all you like about all the great Korean players, and for that matter, the current generation of American players. When she does something special, the LPGA radar this week in the States has gone berserk because of her performance.
You
So-
spent more time in the States than we have, Jarrod, through the Michelle Wee career span. Were you? Well, I know you were completely attuned to the men's game, but did you get a sense for how big the kind of Michelle Wee phenomenon could have been?
Oh, for sure. And I was there when she played in Hawaii.
Yeah.
In the men's tournament.
You
there.
played that event?
I played that event, and it was just the crowds there were huge, following her group around, and she played with Gavin Coles, and she was out driving Colesy all day, which is not uncommon because everyone does it. But for her to go out there and want to do it, and she was somewhat competitive. Playing off the men's tees, playing a course that's hundreds and hundreds of yards longer than they typically play on the ladies tour, and she was out there and she gave it everything. And
at age 14 or 15 or whatever it was.
it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Was there any negative sort of blowback from any of the men? This is a joke, it's a token, it's a gimmick. Was there any of that sort of stuff flying around as far as you can remember?
I'm sure there was.
Yeah.
But, I didn't really get wrapped up in it too much. I was there. It was my first ever event on PGA Tour as well, so it was
Is
kind
that
of...
right? Yeah.
You and her could hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she did have her own locker room. That side of it obviously had to happen because you didn't want to see what goes on in the men's locker rooms. But,
It's remarkable the physical similarities between you two. It's incredible.
Who? Me and
You and
Michelle.
Michelle, it's extraordinary. I've never seen you in the same room, actually.
No. We're about the same height. That's about it.
So was it good for the Stace, because you're the woman here and you were playing at the same time? Was it good for the women's game, or was it, or not? What was the?
I think that she got a lot of negative. There was a lot of negative criticism about it. Like, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Why not come and try and dominate on the women's game? Dominate the women's game before you go and dominate the men's. Like Annika did.
Yeah.
Okay, she just did it once.
Yeah.
Because she was so dominant in the women's game, she wanted to challenge herself. She went and did it once and found it was bloody tough. So didn't do that again.
Yeah.
And she picked a course that was a little bit easier for
That would maybe
for
suit
the
her.
ladies
Yeah.
to go and play.
Yeah.
Whereas Michelle's golf course she chose in Hawaii was probably a little bit too long, a little bit too tough. So
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Annika actually thought about it a little bit deeper, I guess, than what Michelle did.
So it's not too late for her, is it, Hayesy?
No, clearly
in
not.
terms of doing something significant with her career, it's not too late for her.
And
Clearly.
she clearly has the fire in the belly to go back and tinker and rework something. She's rocking something completely different visually this year to last year again, as Stace points out. And, as long as she wants to do it, she's got the time, and she's a brilliant athlete physically. She's an extraordinary, tall, strong, angular player. She's got all the tools, obviously, to do that. I just really feel for her that, as both Jarrod and Stacey pointed out, she's missed the opportunity to come through and dominate at the levels. We go back to the, just local clubland. We're encouraging juniors to go and play off different tees so they can get the feel of shooting a 68 and 69, like Jarrod and Stacey used to do as youngsters. And mere mortals like us can't actually get that feeling. But if she went from being able to shoot a 66 as a 13-year-old and a course set up for her, to being really playing the round of her life to shoot a 73 in Hawaii, that's hard work. You don't get the feeling of staying elite the whole time. So she's been battling with that for 15 years, more than half her life. It's fascinating.
I do think it's important to be trying to learn to shoot low as well.
Yeah.
I used to always try and practice off the men's tees and stuff, but occasionally I'd put myself off the red tees so I could really try and have a low score and learn to go low. I think that's really important.
Yeah. So golf's a game that doesn't give you a lot of wins. You don't win often in golf, but you can have, relatively speaking, good weeks. It feels like Michelle Wee's dealt with more disappointment since she came onto the scene than she has kind of the opposite. And that's a difficult thing for a young person to carry through the really formative years of a professional career.
Yeah, and she's battled with a lot of injury as well. So again, hats off to her for hanging in there and being as competitive she has been.
So 2 Australians we've walked past, and we shouldn't do that on Inside the Ropes. One is Adam Bland, Blandy gets into the WGC event by virtue of the Order of Merit finish here in Australia, and it quits unbelievably well. Like the 700 he shoots, from what I saw on the coverage, he missed a couple of birdie putts late on the Saturday and Sunday. His score could have been, without much changing, his score could have been significantly better than the 7 under than he eventually posted.
Absolute hats off to him, because he could fold up. We've seen many examples in the last 2 or 3 years of people who've come not only from the Australasian Tour but other tours around the world, gone there in the WGC bright lights and just folded, and been way out the back of the field. And not that I'm potting Brett Rumford, but he was like that in the first round this time around, and improved markedly as it went on. But Blandy, just he's just nothing much phases Blandy. I wouldn't imagine. Jarrod, you know him pretty well. I'd guess he's you wouldn't know if he'd dropped a winning lotto ticket or if he had just won something pretty special. But he kept that composure the whole way through in Mexico.
Yeah. And he's done that from as long as I can remember. Like, we played a lot of amateur golf together back in the 90s and early 2000s and stuff. So he's always had that demeanour on the golf course that nothing phases him. And, to get up there in that, I guess probably the biggest tournament he's ever played, and he's played a lot of big tournaments in Japan and obviously here in Australia, but to go there and play a WGC event in Mexico and acquit himself as well as he did was it was incredible. And it was, great to see him have a really good finish over there. And as Andy was saying, if he had to hold a couple of putts on Saturday, Sunday, it could have been a real life-changing kind of a tournament for him.
Sort of is already. I mean, in the sense that even for a bloke who did play major championship last year, he's banked a really big check here.
Yeah, it was tidy.
Yeah,
it goes all right.
It just takes the heat off him for the rest of the year. He can play with the house money, basically, that he never once would have had. As well as he goes in Japan or wherever else he's playing in Japan this year, he's always had to fight for his card and fight to put food on the table, etc. This is a free hit, the WGC, based on his last year's stuff. So it's easy money in inverted commas because he's worked hard to get it. But to play with house money must be a great feeling.
It just doesn't it go to show, and you two can attest to this, I imagine, how difficult it is to go from being a good player on a tour that you cut your teeth on to making the step up globally. I remember following Blandy for, I reckon it was 2 years in a row at Coolum in the PGA, where on the weekend where he was, deep up the leaderboard and was late out, particularly on the Saturday and a couple of times, I reckon, and was lucky enough to be doing the walking commentary behind him and thought, I don't know how old he was, same age as you, I suspect, Jarrod. So this is going back, probably 10 years at least now. I thought this kid's going to be a player, and he's been good. To get a ticket in Japan is nothing to sneeze at, but it just goes to show how hard it is to go from where you're at to the next level and the level beyond that.
Yeah, it is. To make that step is, it literally just comes with one lucky week a lot of times. You go out there and you have one really good week and then all of a sudden it just clicks and then you become that next level player. And some people don't get that opportunity where it just doesn't click, and they just become that battling guy that stays at the same level for 10, 12, 15 years and doesn't really go any further than that. But, he seems to have found that click a couple of years ago, and he's gone on and he's turning himself into one of Australia's most consistent players, I reckon.
When I think of that, going like myself, say going from or trying to go from LET to LPGA, like I find that a massive jump. I mean, I only ever had conditional status twice on LPGA, but never really found my feet over there. Like Jarrod said about having 1 week, I did have one decent week that got me a good re-rank that allowed me to play the rest of the season, but never well enough to keep my status over there. Okay. So I was kind of in limbo for like a few years, really trying to get set up on LPGA, but I never really did it. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to talk to Rebecca Artis about this. She's about to kind of go through that herself. So when she joins us, it'll be terrific.
Yep.
While you've got the mic, Minji Lee is at the kind of cusp, the elite level cusp. Will she be getting frustrated at all? She has another top 10 finish, in the best of company again on the weekend, and she's putting together a lot of really good results.
The amount of top 10 she's had in the last 12 months, I don't know the stats off the top
There's
of my head.
There's a lot of them,
yeah. It's some really, really consistent golf. I don't know if you'd say she'd be getting frustrated, maybe. But, she's got to really understand, how close she is, and I guess that's got to bring a lot of confidence as well. But, she was only 2 shots back on the weekend, I watched the last 9 holes of it, and, gee, it could have been anything.
She's not doing anything, it's absolutely right. Yeah.
It really could have,
yeah. She's doing nothing wrong.
She gave herself a lot of opportunities. It was really good to see.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how tight it is at the top of the women's game, Andy. She's actually dropped down with she's in the top. She's in the top 10 of the race to the globe, which is a testament to her consistency early in the season. But she's dropped down the world rankings from 15 to 16, which is unbelievable.
After, what did she finish last week?
Tie 6,
yeah.
So, 2 shots off the lead.
And she's done nothing wrong all year. But from Shan Feng at the top, I'm really glad that Ali told me how to pronounce that name.
You love it.
Rolling.
Any opportunity you get. We should, in fact, that could be your 2018 sound effect.
Shan Feng.
Every time you say her name, we might have to put a sound effect.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah. At number 1 in the world, but the distance between her and Minji Lee is actually reachable. It's very attainable. I'm not saying it could happen in 1 week. Like, she probably would need to win something like an A&A Inspiration to take the huge leap right towards her, but
which is not out of the question.
Far from out of the question. Yeah, it's very achievable. It's an extraordinary balance at the top of the women's game, and it makes it interesting to watch even more so than normal, I think, because any one of the top 20 players is a legitimate threat every week.
So before we get on to your experience in Singapore and your assessment of the depth of the golf in this region coming through on the women's side of the game, Stace, the New Zealand Open, it was just an absolute scorefest. I reckon you and I might have been able to break par down there, Hayesy.
That's not going to make the cut, though, is it?
No. Well,
not breaking par.
Would have still missed by 7. Easily missed by. But, gee, the scoring was red hot, but you still got to win it. And the kid wins it shooting 63 in the first round and 62 in the fourth round. There's a fair bit to be said about that, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. If we can just park the actual number, it's an incredible achievement to stand up under pressure. And Daniel Nisbet, hadn't had a win like that before. So he's put his name in the frame a couple of times, and I wouldn't say faded, but hasn't kicked clear in the last round, hasn't pushed on to do that in such style. Spot a guy 5 shots. And run him down and with a leg in the air in the end. He's crushed him.
2.
Yeah. Phenomenal achievement for someone who's hasn't done it. Look at the scoring wise. He actually took out a record that I'm not thrilled that he has, but good on him for doing it. Cal Nagel's 26 under. I like that Daniel Nisbet's shot the score.
Yeah.
I just don't like seeing legends come out of record books. But Cal Nagel 26 under was the previous NZ Open record, low score. So it's gone by the boards, and full credit to Daniel Nisbet. That's an amazing score. 22 from memory guys at 17 under or better.
That's unbelievable.
That's off the charts stupid for just choppers like me and Andy, Jarrod.
Mate, even for me. I think I broke 17 under once in my life. Yeah. So it's I was just flabbergasted by the scores because I've obviously played the Hills. I haven't played Millbrook, but I didn't think the Hills was that easy. But they've gone over there and they've just tore it a new one pretty much.
Yeah.
They got perfect weather, fair to
Yeah,
say. Like,
yeah,
there was no
unbelievable.
wind. It was dead. It seemed to be just about becalmed for the 4 days.
But you've still got to shoot
You-
27 under par.
absolutely you do. No,
That's the
you-
thing. You've
spot
still got
on.
to have, your 30, 31 birdies that you need to shoot.
That's
Because
true.
you're going to have a couple of bogeys. There's no way around that.
Yeah.
But you
So that's
still got to
nearly-
have your 31, 32 birdies.
Nearly a birdie every second hole for 4 days.
Yeah.
It's
Well done on the maths there, Hayesy.
thanks, Stacey.
He's good like
Appreciate
that.
That'd be a good Ambrose score, though, 27 under.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's incredible, and good on Terry Pilkett. Artis has never hung it
Yeah.
up. He's 205 years old. G'day, Terry, and he's still going beautifully.
Yeah.
Great to see a lot of young kids make their mark too, and bank a pretty good check because there's a bit of cash going around the NZ Open. So, great achievements all round, really.
Sweet place to play golf too, isn't it? I mean, if anyone listening to this hasn't been down to Queenstown to play some golf, or just go down to Queenstown. Oh, Stacey, don't tell me.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
Yeah.
mate. Oh,
Yeah.
I feel.
Anyway, moving on.
I feel really you've got to do that. It's a 3-hour flight. I mean,
Yeah.
we're sitting here in Melbourne. It's a 3-hour direct flight to Queenstown from Melbourne. It is.
It's a must.
It is a must.
Just like the sandbelt courses, though, and for that matter, most courses in Australia, the defence is the wind in
true.
Queenstown. So
Yeah.
no wind.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Why do we think those scores were like
Yeah,
that? Was it just
dead
the
still.
conditions?
Yeah.
Was it soft greens? Was it perfect greens? Was it?
I heard they had a bit of rain in the lead up weeks. They had a really dry summer, then a bit of rain, so they'd lost a lot of the rough. Then it got soft.
Yeah.
Now there's no wind, and the courses were mint.
Yeah,
so
okay.
everything, it's the planets aligning. But as Jarrod says, you still got to do it.
I agree. You've still got to mentally be having that, 8, 9 unders. I mean,
Yeah.
and backing it up. It's not
As
that easy.
As Aaron Price said, so he shot at 68, 69, then bemoaned on Twitter at 6 under. He couldn't even play on the weekend.
That's right.
Unbelievable golf.
And you see, I was watching it. You see Ryan Fox, who's he's a good international pro, a really good international pro. He's got Steve on the bag for him through the week, so they're anticipating big things. With about 3 holes to play, he's outside the cut. He goes birdie 16, eagle 17. I think I've got the numbers right to get inside the cut line. He's got the par 3, 9th, I think it was. They've been playing the one of it might have been whichever course finishes with the 9th or the 18th as the par 3. He had the par 3 for his last hole, and 3 putted from the front edge to post 600 and miss the cut. So while we're saying it's easy, a player like Ryan Fox felt the knot in the gut from a place where he should have made an up and down from the front edge of that green, and he couldn't get it done. So there are good players who are still feeling the pinch, irrespective of the scoring.
And one last local event, Andy, before we perhaps have a break and chat to Jarrod more extensively. Stace, Coffs Harbour was the second of 2 events up there on the ALPG and co-sanctioned with LET. How did you think that went?
Yeah, it was really good. So that was the second event they'd had up there, and I think it was great for especially the international girls that had travelled to be able to play the 2 in the same area. Staying in the same place. But at Coffs Harbour Golf Club, I mean, it was awesome. It was a great setup, quite tough setup. But yeah, it was a great event and great opportunity for some of our amateurs to be getting those starts, and even one of our girls, Hannah Park, was leading the tournament at one point. So
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, again, great experience for her to be playing in a final group on the weekend.
Does it show those girls in particular, but also the ALPG professionals who haven't quite made it yet, what you have to do to get to LET level?
Exactly. I mean, for it to be these events to be co-sanctioned, I think there's great opportunities there. If one of our local girls had won that event, then comes with status, then comes with, a lot more opportunities open. I know a English girl did end up winning, but also if some of our girls just even have the slightest bit of status, it's great for them going forward. Yeah.
There's a lot to talk to you about still, Stace. I've got to talk to you about your impassioned editorial on the front page of Golf Australia's website this week, Hayesy, but we have got a special guest in the studio, Jarrod Lyle. We'll get a quick break out of the way here on Inside the Ropes. Come back and talk to our main man.
G'day, I'm My Golf Ambassador Jason Day. I'm really excited to be an ambassador for My Golf, Australian Golf's national junior program, jointly run by Golf Australia and the PGA. My Golf is every Aussie kid's first step on their golfing pathway. It's all about teaching children the basic skills of golf in a safe and healthy environment, and just as importantly, about the life skills that golf can teach you that distinguish our sport from the rest. Remember to visit mygolf.org.au for more information.
G'day, I'm Cameron Smith. I'm not at home as often as I'd like, but I can keep up with all the Australian golf on Inside the Road.
So it's great to have Jarrod Lyle in the studio with us today. He's already been part of the show right from the word go. But we've got you here to talk about you as much as have you talk about the game with us. Everybody in Australian sport, particularly Australian golf, is in your corner. I'm sure you've had a sense of that for quite some time now. This is not a new revelation and phenomenon to you. You know how much people care. You're sitting here now and you look terrific. How are you travelling?
Yeah, look, mate, everything's, I guess, the doctors are happy. My doctor, Jeff, came to me, we had a meeting with him probably 5 weeks ago, and he said, you actually made it look a lot easier than it should have been. And I'll tell you now, it wasn't easy. You know, I had days in there that it was just absolutely brutal, that I could have just rolled over and given up. But I thought, well, no, there's still too many things I want to do in life to give up. So it's been a fair old battle this time around. The chemo I had was the strongest chemo I've ever had, and it did things to me that I'd never thought you could do to a human body and still live. But, you know, so I've come through the other side. I'm currently at about day 91 after my transplant, and they want you to sort of hang around the hospital till about day 100. I'll probably have to stay a little bit longer because I'm a tricky individual, being my third time around, and they don't really get to deal with people that are, you know, third time around. So, so yeah, there's still a little bit of unknown with me as to, you know, how the cure is going to go and all that kind of deal. But I'm on the right track and heading in the right direction again.
It's hard, Jarrod, for people. We saw you at the Emirates Australian Open, and you looked really good physically, and you were out there working with Bri for the week, your wife. And then they hear you now, and it probably doesn't seem that long a stretch in time to realise the hell that you went through. And, you know, you look great, except for that brow. Can you quickly encapsulate what January the 4th felt like for you, or something like that?
Yeah, it was January the 4th was probably a day where I literally just sat on the couch. You know, I was out of hospital at the time. I couldn't do anything. You know, it was only probably a month ago, maybe, where I could walk to the Queen Vic Market and back to the apartment, which was, you know, it's literally a K one way and a K back. You know, and for me, that was a massive milestone. You know, I did that. I went down, I bought some meat and veggies and brought it back to the house and sat on the couch, and I thought, geez, I've done it. I finally made it. And I text Brian, I said, I made it to the market. She goes, you're still alive. And I said, yep, still alive. You know, because that's, you know, I couldn't do it.
I guess without trying to be too graphic for everyone listening, but, you know, I'm not sure of the dates, but, you know, there's a day there where you've got tubes hanging everywhere, and there's, you know, you've got ulcers everywhere, and you can't eat. You physically can't eat. You've got tubes doing that for you. So what I'm saying is it's only a couple of months apart from what we're talking about here, but you've been through hell here and back.
And I think, you know, when you saw me at the Vic, it's not the Vic Open, the Aussie Open, when you saw me there, I couldn't have felt any better. And Bri kept saying to me, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Yeah. She goes, it looks like there's nothing wrong with you. Like I was running up the hill, back to the clubhouse, filling the suitcase, bringing it back down full of belts, selling belts, doing all this kind of stuff. And then 2.5, 3 weeks later, I couldn't walk to the toilet in my room. You know, so it was just... And I think that's what made it hard, because I was so healthy and so active 3 weeks before it. And then to go from that to rock bottom and not be able to do anything was just, I think that really sort of hurt my spirits a little bit, I guess. But, you know, I've always tried to be as positive as I can through this whole thing. And I even said to Bri one day when she came in, I said, I don't know how much more I can do. I said, I don't know how much more fight I got left in me. I could just roll over and quit right now. And she just looked at me and she goes, well, I don't want you to do that. I said, well, I don't want to do it either, but I just feel like utter crap.
So without Bryony and Lucy and Gemma, where would you be?
Probably in a coffin.
They've been totally your inspiration to keep fighting.
Yep.
It's pretty hard words when you hear that said.
Oh, no, I reckon it's beautiful. Like, it's great. You're lucky to have him, you know. And you're lucky to have your brother, you know, like you get the...
Well, he had no choice.
So you said something that you are now 100% donor.
Yeah.
Well, can you explain what that feels like? I mean, not physically, because I imagine you feel exactly who, like you are you. But when you realise that you are here because everything that makes you tick and everything you need has come from someone else, how does that make you feel?
Well, you know what? I guess I had a test done at 30 days after my transplant, and it took about 10 days to get the results. And for me, it was a massive deal to find out whether the transplant had worked. And I'm laying in the bed in hospital, and the doctor comes in, and she says to me, "Oh, by the way, your chimerism test came in. You're 100% donor." And I'm just sort of sitting there going, you could have showed a little bit more excitement. You know, I was waiting for this, bells and whistles type thing to happen.
Raise the bat.
You're 100% donor. And I'm thinking, this is the best news ever. Mm. And then, my main doctor, Jeff, came in and he's like, "Yeah, you're 100% donor." I said, "Well, that's fantastic, isn't it?" And he actually showed a little bit more enthusiasm than the other girl.
So why is that fantastic?
Because it just means that the chemo has done what it's supposed to do. The transplant was doing what it's supposed to do, where it's come in and it's literally trying to kill off the remainder of what was left of Jarrod, I guess you could say. So there's literally no Jarrod left on the inside. It's all latent now, and hopefully he's a healthy individual, because if he's not, I'll crack it. But it was just, for me, that was possibly the best news I could have heard. And it gave me that kick that I needed, and to sort of say, well, this thing's starting to work. It's doing what it's supposed to do, and hopefully I can get through, because, my doctors only gave me a 25% chance of this thing working. So, and here we are at day 91, 92, whatever we're up to, and I'm still here. So
there's a chance your body can just reject everything they're trying to put into it. That's the fear, right?
Yeah. So they call that graft-versus-host, and I've had a bit of that. It's come through as like a rash on my skin, and it can affect other parts of your body pretty severely. So it's something that, unfortunately, and even after my second diagnosis in 2012, when I had my transplant back then as well, it's something you deal with for a long, long time, is graft-versus-host. So it can pop up at any time. So you've kind of got to be very wary of how you're feeling and what's going on, and things like that, and blood tests are very important to determine what's going on, and it's a good thing to have a little bit of it. You don't want too much of it, because it can, in the end, it can kill you, the graft-versus-host, and then it does some good as well. So it's a tricky little thing to sort of control.
Yeah, Jarrod's dumbed that down for us, and for a bloke who, for health reasons, didn't finish year 12, you're actually a doctor now, mate, I reckon. You could actually talk with anyone in the world about leukemia, acute myeloid leukemia, and other ones too, presumably, that you've studied the difference in. It's quite remarkable to me to hear you talk about that when you get technical.
Yeah, it's something that I never thought I'd truly understand, or understand some of the words that get thrown at you. But I guess when you're thrown into that situation, you have to learn. You have to learn things about it. You have to learn what doctors are saying, and I've done that a little bit, and I'm lucky enough that I can dumb it down. It's just literally going back into the old Shep boy and dumbing things down for everybody else. But it's something that I'm not happy about it. I never wanted it, but, it's definitely made me stronger and a better person, I think, having to go through all this kind of ordeals that I've been through the 3 times that I've had it.
Where are you physically in terms of it? Let's just, for argument's sake, say that 2008, Jarrod was that was pure you. That was as good as you're going to get. Where are you now on that scale? If that was 100, where are you now physically? And I'm not talking about golf. I'm talking about life.
Walking to the market.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm probably at about 40%, I reckon, of what I was back then. It's like I went to Shepparton for a day last week to see my grandparents, and then I just sat on the couch for 2 days.
Yeah. What's the scope to get back towards 100? Is the scope to get to 100, or is it to get to 70, or what's the, when you're fit and healthy again here, what's the number?
Look, I'd take 80%.
Yeah.
I'd take 80% every day of my life, just to be able to get out there, and my goal is to walk 18 holes of golf at some point. I've already been looking at motorised golf buggies, remote control ones compared to non-remote control ones and all that kind of stuff, just to, I guess, give me that something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, give me that goal to get out there and do it. And because I don't want to sit out there and play golf in a golf cart because I can't get around. I want to do everything I can to, you know, to go back down to the Sands or at Shepparton or wherever I play and actually walk 18 holes of golf again. So it's still a long way away. But every day that I keep doing things and get out and about and go for a walk, it's that goal's getting closer again. So,
Andy, you might want to ask Jarrod about this in a second yourself rather than me do it, but we're helping write his book.
But I'm very much aware of that, and we will ask about that. Yep.
And I know that people will remember Jarrod playing in the 2013 Australian Masters, the day that he went the blub on the first tee. Sorry, mate.
No,
the day that he was extremely emotional.
I think a lot of people did.
Everyone.
Right.
It wasn't a dry eye in the house, and it was a big win for Jarrod to get through the tournament, play 4 rounds. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but he told us during the writing of the book here that the next day he had been committed to play a Pro-Am at the Sands. And he was so knackered that, with permission of the people down at Torquay, of course, that he actually got to drive the cart everywhere, including onto some of the greens, so that he could actually walk out and putt.
I don't think they gave me permission to drive on the greens, but I did it anyway.
That's disgraceful.
I was like Donald Trump, just driving wherever I wanted.
Running the show.
Let that be the only thing in common you share with Donald Trump, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Hey, just that, when you talk about going back to Shep to see your grandparents, it knocks you around. How big a personal milestone is that when you think about this is the 3rd time round for you, and even in times 1 and 2, there must have been times when you wondered what the future looked like. Here you are living through it for a 3rd time, 91 days into it, which is unbelievable. The fact that you can still go back to Shepparton and sit down and have a cup of tea with your grandma and your grandpa, that must be, for us, that's, well, might have gone, but for most people, that's just, we're going to see Grand Sunday Arvo and catch up. But that must be a particularly special thing for you to be able to sort of still do and have a very significant importance attached to it, I imagine.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, not just because it was there to see my grandparents, it was actually to be able to leave the vicinity of the hospital too, which I haven't done for so long. It's, you know, I've been down to Torquay a couple of times, and I remember the first time we did it, I was going down there to pick Lucy up from her first day of school, and we literally drove past a supermarket that's about 150 metres from the apartment, and I looked at it and I've gone, and now this is the furthest I've been past this hospital in 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, I guess that little achievement and that little milestone was something that, you know, I was pretty proud of, but at the same time it's a scary thing because you're almost leaving your safety blanket of the hospital, you know, and when they say, oh, you know, you can go home now, or whenever that is in the next week or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it is, to have that safety blanket sort of lifted off you and go, right, okay, you can resume normal life again. It's kind of like, well, I'm not really sure if I'm ready for it yet as well. Yeah. So it's kind of it is a weird feeling. But luckily, you know, Geelong Hospital, it's sad that you got to sit there and go, you know, oh, this place has got a pretty good hospital, and
close.
I know it's 20 minutes from door to door, and if anything happens, they know who I am down there, and I can sort of just sneak in there and have whatever I need done. But you know, unfortunately, that's kind of what my life's been lately.
How is the book? Just before we get too far away from it and move on.
Yeah, the book.
August, it's going to be coming out. Is that about right?
There's no set date yet, but I think it'll be around Father's Day. So yeah, August.
Yeah.
Look, Martin Blake and I have been in a lot of discussions with Jarrod and Bryony about how it's all coming together, and it's actually starting to come together really well. It's been an emotional ride for an outsider, me, but Jarrod and Bri have been unbelievable in letting us in. We've been in tears and had probably one too many man hugs through the process.
Yeah, but you're pretty cuddly, Hayesy, so it's all right. You can get away with it.
But it's a tearjerker. There's a bit of golf. We're trying to, in some ways, not talk too much golf because it's more about Jarrod the person and the story and the battles. But you know, there's a heap of chapters that have a story that will make you think twice.
I bet there will be.
So I don't think there's too many books like that. It's not about the authors; it's about the subject. He's been quite remarkable in having a great memory about so many details, but being so open and, as Jarrod is, welcoming to people to hear the story, because it's, as he says, and I'm sure you'll say it now, it's not just about you, it's about all the people you've met in hospital.
Yeah, it is, and it's something that, you know, we wanted the book to almost be a helpful kind of book for people that are dealing with anything in life, and, you know, just to know that there's other people out there that have dealt with this kind of situation. And I can't tell you how many messages I've had from people and how many, you know, texts or, you know, Facebook messages and things like that. Like, I've got some great friends that I've never met. You know, there's a guy, Sean, from Canada, who his wife sent me a message on Facebook, and, you know, I was just sitting on the couch in Orlando at the time, and I thought, oh, might as well give this guy a call. And anyway, so I messaged back straight away and got his phone number off his wife, and he literally fell off the couch because I was calling him, you know, and then it went on and on and on for probably 6, 7, 8 months where, you know, he got diagnosed and was looking for someone to help him, I guess, try and find someone to do a transplant or give him his treatment and all that kind of stuff in Canada, and he couldn't find anyone. And, you know, so I sort of helped get him on the right track, I guess, and, you know, it was good for him just to be able to talk to someone who'd been through it all. And yeah, so it's kind of a book that I wanted to make sure that it didn't have too much golfy stuff in it. Maybe one or two of my, you know, most memorable shots or, you know, happy times in golf, and the rest of it was more to do with, you know, obviously the health battles and trying to just sort of, you know, I've never really understood why people reckon I'm an inspiration to them. But the more you sort of deal with it and the more you're out there, you kind of figure out what I'm doing is helping other people. And, you know, that's why I decided this time around that we'd almost try and document things a little bit better on Instagram and, you know, let people know exactly what was going on at the time. And I guess it is helping people. And that's what I wanted this book to be about as well.
I'll say it, Andy, he is an inspiration. Like, having watched it sort of not firsthand, I haven't been in the room when it's been crunch time, but it's a pretty emotional journey, and to be as forthright and as open as he is full credit, and I'm sure gives a lot of people a lot of hope for what might be in their future. No doubt about that. So the next kind of week and the next couple of weeks, just before we kind of have you stop talking about yourself, what does the immediate future look like?
The immediate future, I've got some tests to have on the 21st, 22nd of March. I go in and have another bone marrow test to make sure that everything's still clear and things like that. So they're not the most enjoyable things to have. Having a massive needle shoved in the bone of your hip, and the drugs that come with it are probably the most enjoyable part. You kind of you get knocked out a little bit, and you feel all right. So I've got to have all those done, and then I see my doctor again on the 4th of April to, I guess, go through all those results and make sure that, you know, we're still tracking along all right and everything's doing what it's supposed to do, and there's no leukemic cells floating around anywhere. So so it's kind of a big next month in terms of what happens after that as well. So it's, you know, there'll be a lot of sleepless nights, as there has been for quite a while, and a lot of thinking going on, but you know, hopefully I can get back to Torquay soon and be the dad that I want to be again, and you know, just be around the girls and sit on my own couch.
How have the kids been through the process and stuff? Wife and kids, I guess, how have they been handling things?
My wife just amazes me, you know, how well she sort of dealt with all this, and, you know, having to, you know, come up here and see her husband laying down flat on his back, not really being able to do anything and looking pretty sick, and then she's got to go home and look after 2 young kids and all that. So she's really amazed me at how well she's handled all this. My 6-year-old she understands what I've been through and knows that I've been really sick, and there's a lot of things that I can't do with her. Yep. My 2-year-old just jumps on me like I'm a trampoline, and she doesn't know anything about it. So, and that was pretty much exactly what Lucy was like the second time around as well. So, you know, Gemma won't really understand what was going on. She'll obviously see a lot of pictures with Daddy with no hair and all that kind of deal. But Lucy understands what's going on, and for someone of her age, she's very very understanding and very smart, and she realises that, you know, Daddy may not be here at some point. And, you know, for someone of her age to have to deal with that is not something you really want to put on a young child. But, you know, she just goes about her business and wonders why she's been at school for 3 weeks in prep and hasn't had any homework. So that's, you know, that's her biggest dilemma at the moment as well. So it's, you know, I think they've obviously taken after their mother and become very strong and very independent.
Relaxed,
and, you know, they just go about their business.
It's a hell of a story, mate. Good luck. We wish you all the very best. Thanks for being big enough and here enough to come in and tell us about it again. We're all in your corner, mate.
Thank you.
Jarrod Lyle, our special guest on Inside the Ropes.
The Golf Australia website is now the place to go to look up your handicap and so much more. Whether you're out and about on your phone or in the office trying to avoid work, just go to golf.org.au and punch your golf link number into the box at the top of the homepage. Who knows, maybe that last round was just good enough to put you in single figures. While you're on the site, check out the daily golf results at your club, view our course index for up-to-date ratings, read the latest golf news from home and abroad, listen to Australian golf podcasts and interviews, and watch video tournament highlights or tips to improve your game. It's everything a golf tragic could want. Visit golf.org.au today, the home of Australian golf.
Hi, my name is Soyan Yu, who play on the LPGA Tour, and I love Vegemite, but I love Vegemite more than Vegemite.
Welcome back to the show. It is a very exciting part of the professional career for an Australian player who's been around for a little while now. You know Rebecca Artis, previously as the artist previously known as Rebecca Flood, wasn't it, back in the day?
Floody, we all know her as, yep.
She's got the very, very exciting part of her career to come now. She finally has status on the LPGA Tour, and she's been good enough to join us. Rebecca, thanks for your time.
No worries, guys.
How exciting is it?
Yeah, it is. It's a very exciting year for me. Finally got my LPGA
Come on, show us
card.
your excitement, Floody. A little bit. Give us a little bit of something there.
Mate, I feel like it's relief more than anything. 5 years I tried at Q School to get my card, and fifth time lucky.
Yeah, it's obviously going to be a very exciting year for you, mate.
Yeah,
you're looking forward to, what's your goals for the year, or how do you feel about things going into next week?
Yeah, as you say, we hit the road Sunday. We fly out to Phoenix, so the first tournament for me in the States as an LPGA member. I can't wait, actually. It's a big year ahead. It's exciting. It's all new. It's all fresh. New places to go, new things to see, new golf courses, all that. I feel like, I've had 7 years on the LET and I'm ready for a change. So I'm really looking forward to it. For me, the biggest goal is to get into all the majors, play my way into all the majors, and then hopefully play the Asian swing at the end of the year.
So have you laid that schedule out in front of you? Have you looked at the schedule, and have you gone, right, I'm going to have a crack at everything here, or are you going to kind of pace your way through that first part of the season?
No, I've definitely looked at the schedule. I've set it all out in front of me. At this stage, I'm really looking forward to. I'll play nearly everything. I'll play a pretty full schedule. There's only one section in the middle of the schedule in the middle of the year where there's 9 in a row. 2 of those are majors. So if I'm in those majors, I may take a week off, just an ordinary week off. But if worst case scenario, if I'm not in those majors, I'll play every regular event on the schedule. So. At this stage, it's a little bit up in the air, but yeah, I'll play as much as I can possibly play.
Which we shouldn't be surprised about, Andy. How many frequent flyer points do you reckon you've got racked up over the last couple of years?
Millions, but I use them wisely. I generally upgrade myself to business with points and leave my husband back in cattle class. So.
She's not lying there either, guys.
Hey, everything happens for a reason, I reckon. If you're a subscriber to that notion, do you would have liked to have got there earlier, but you get there at 29. I think you are now, Rebecca. Do you feel like there might have been let's get the vault of experience up here. Let's get myself ready to go, and you arrive at a perfect time in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't regret any decisions I've made in terms of going to the LET first and playing out there. I've gained some valuable experience out there. I've had 2 wins. I've played in plenty of majors, British Opens. My 2 wins got me into the Evian Championships. So, like I said, I've had plenty of experience. I certainly don't feel like a rookie on the LPGA in terms of what my golf has given me before I've got there. But I am definitely a rookie out there. There's things that I've got to learn, and just general rules and regulations of the tour and stuff like that. But I certainly don't feel like I'm a rookie, and I feel like I'm ready to compete out there just from the experience that I've gained through playing the LET. Winning on any tour gives you the confidence and belief that you can do it. So I'll take that onto the LPGA, and like I said, I feel like I'm ready to compete out there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about, her being a rookie out there. She doesn't seem a rookie to me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, she's been playing for 7 years at such a high level, and the wins that she's had, she's beaten a lot of LPGA players in those fields. So, she's definitely not going to be a rookie going out there. Some things, yes, because she won't know a lot of the normal tournament procedures, but when it comes to golf side of things, I think she's far from a rookie.
Well, you got Jarrod Lyle sitting in here, Rebecca, and you've made the transition, Jarrod. Is it a difficult, just in terms of the day-to-day, everyday, living your life on the PGA or LPGA tour? Is that an easy transition to make?
No, it's not an easy transition because everything's so much bigger. But I think with Rebecca having played all those times over in Europe, it's going to be a much easier transition for her than someone coming out of college or someone that's a second-year pro. So, I guess you just got to harness that and, put all that experience in your back pocket and go, well, this is not my first rodeo. It's not my first time playing golf tournaments. It's just now it's just on a bigger stage for her.
So, Beck, what do you do? Do you establish a base somewhere over there, or are you just literally going to be going from kind of town to town?
No, we've become good friends with Gavin Coles. Gavin Coles is obviously, he was taught by Gary Edwin, so we've got similarities in terms of our golfing and stuff. So we'll base ourselves mainly at Colesy's. He's in Orlando. But just depending on the schedule, we may also go a little bit week to week, just depending where we are in the country, what weeks off we take and stuff like that. But at this stage, we'll probably call home at Gavin Coles's in the States.
It's becoming the Gavin Coles podcast, isn't it, really?
I think
it's not the first time.
You did get mentioned before.
Yeah, you did.
Well, you're about 12 months too late because I actually sold my house in Orlando 12 months ago. It was very well priced, very nice house.
Oh, Jarrod.
So, unfortunately, you've missed out there, Beck.
I might have taken the offer up.
Rebecca,
I was just going to say 2 weeks with Colesy might be enough. You might want to look for somewhere else.
Well, by the sounds of her schedule, there might not be that many weeks off, hey, Flatty, anyway.
No, that's exactly right. I know already that we've got a week in Dallas and then followed by a week off. So we're also going to lob at the Pampling's doorstep and stay there for a week. So
perfect.
I feel like we've got a pretty good base, and I'm fortunate enough. I've got my husband with me. He travels and caddies for me, so I'm never on my own. And I think sometimes tour life can become a little bit lonely, but like I said, I'm fortunate enough to have Jeff out there with me.
I've never heard you say the words "fortunate enough" to have Jeff with me in
fortunate
one sentence
and
before.
That's what. Definitely not.
Beck, before we let you go, because I know you got a few things on today. There's a big push for women's golf, and not just at pro level. We're talking, elite amateur, but more so even down at club level, just to get women involved and the membership rates up. And I know you're probably aware of all that stuff based on what happened at the Women's Australian Open. Have you got thoughts or some sort of example of where things could get to or have been, or even in bad light at clubland that you've experienced in your time as a young woman golfer?
Look, I grew up in a small country town. So when I was a junior growing up, we had a few juniors, both boys and girls, but I found that, as I got a little bit older and a little bit better, I found that I was, constantly playing in the men's comp off the men's tee. So I was always surrounded by men in in my golf club, which, wasn't a bad experience for me at all. But I feel like most golf clubs are male dominated, and it'd be lovely to see that change. Even, just from the club comps, instead of having 20 women in the regular Thursday club comp or whatever day they may play, to see that number double. And then, but that's got to start at the grassroots. It's got to start from a junior level, and it's got to start from trying to get young junior girls involved in golf. And it's a difficult one because I know for, growing up in a small country town, netball, things like netball were always, the most dominant sport because it's a team sport, and girls, being girls, love to be in a group, and, just the general gossip and the laughter and all that type of stuff. So it is a difficult one to get women involved in golf, and especially young junior girls. But I suppose as a pro like myself and Keating, all we can do is try and give back. And, if we're at a golf tournament, I know I especially always try and sign a golf ball and find a young girl to give it to. Not, from any other reason, is that I don't think that, young junior boys need any more inspiration to play the game. You've got, the likes of, in Australia, Adam Scott, Jason Day, even Jarrod, Lyle that's sitting there. I just feel like, we need to try and encourage young junior girls. And if that means, signing a golf ball and finding a young junior to give it to encourage her to play junior golf, if that's all it takes, if that gets one more girl involved in junior golf, and then, over the years, if she doesn't turn pro but she stays within golf just in a local club comp, well then I think that's all we can do as a pro.
Music to the ears of a few people sitting in this room, I reckon, Rebecca, and it'd make a world of difference to any of those, young girls who are on the receiving end of, a gesture like that. We're all going to be watching. We can't wait to see you cut your teeth over there. It's been, it's been a grind for you to get there, but you've got there. And anybody who's watched you play golf over the years will be suggesting that it'll be a long time before you're not on that tour. So, good luck. Thanks for joining us. All the best. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Rebecca Artis joining us, who's got the next great challenge of her professional career to come.
Hi, this is Sherelle McMahon. Swing Fit is the fun, healthy, social way for women to get started in golf. You'll learn the basics of the golf swing and how to putt over a 6-week program, and get your whole body moving through yoga and Pilates-style exercises. You don't need any golf knowledge or equipment. Simply turn up in comfy clothing and get started. You'll be surrounded by like-minded people and receive constant support. So get outdoors, meet new friends, and learn a sport that you can play for the rest of your life. To find a program near you, visit swingfit.com.au.
Hi, this is Rod Pampling. Anytime you guys want to tune in and find out what's happening around the world, listen to Inside the Ropes. Great way to find out what the Aussies are doing. Keep your ears on.
Welcome back to the show. A whole lot of other bits and pieces we need to whip our way through before we wrap it up for another week. Stace, we spoke to you on the phone a couple of weeks ago about the Women's Asia Pacific Amateur. I reckon I always call these Asia Pacific Amateurs a whole bunch of different names. Oh. But it is the Women's Asia Pacific Amateur, right?
The Women's Amateur Asia Pacific.
So why does the amateur go before? I thought I had it right this time.
Women's Amateur Asia Pacific.
Okay.
WAP. Go with WAP.
WAP.
Yep.
You've had a couple of weeks since you were over in Sentosa. What was it like?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was such a great event for the girls. I mean, it was absolutely like world class. Best amateur event, maybe bar US Amateur that I've been to. The girls were treated like princesses, which quite a few of our girls really liked that, in a good way. Just right from the get-go, right from the getting picked up at the airport to the hotel to the whole works that I guess it's just very professional. It's like a professional event. And then the competition. I mean, it's the best, many of the best amateurs in the world. So I think it's a really good measuring tool for our girls. We had quite mixed results over there. A couple, our best was Robin Choi, 11th place, which she had a good weekend. We had Kirsty Hodgkins. They both go to University Colorado. So I guess just for the other girls, especially that are based here, just a really good, I'd say, eye-opener, Nelly, on, I guess, how to to gauge themselves where they need to be focusing their practice. They really need to be upping their work ethic. And I think that was quite evident that a lot of the Asian teams that were there, that was, their work ethic is really just above and beyond. And I think you can tell a lot of our girls that, but then for them to see it
spot on
is another, another level.
And this is one of the beauties, I would imagine, Stace, of the strength of particularly Korean and also Thai golf, and one of your girls in particular, for them to actually know that the best Korean youngster will invariably go on and be a really good professional player on a big tour globally, that they know where to get to, and this is someone they can aspire to immediately.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just another level. It really is. And for our girls to see that. And that event in itself, I think next year is really, this being its first year, but next year the girls have seen it. They know what's on offer to be getting into 2 majors and the HSBC the following week. I mean, it's like the Asian major. So I think next year it's really going to be an event to get into.
Right, stop dodging bullets here, pal, because this is what we've got you on here for, your knowledge, your in-depth knowledge of the female game in particular.
As in who got those starts, you mean?
Yes, and also
Yep.
and also immediately how her form has been franked at Sentosa last week.
Yes, we're talking of Ataya Titikul.
Yeah.
And I hear Hayesy's been having trouble with some names here, so I just wanted to put that at rest. No, obviously, and I was lucky enough to see Ataya play the LET event that she won last year, where she beat Lydia Ko's record, I think was correct, to be for the youngest winner of a professional event. So for her to win the event, then go on to play HSBC Singapore the following week and finish tied 8th, correct me if I'm wrong there. Yeah, I mean, phenomenal.
And just 66, 67 on the weekend.
Yes, I think she was maybe 3 over after
15?
6 on the first day.
15? Wow.
Yes, 15. Had her 15th birthday the week of the WAP.
The WAP. Let's just call it that.
And then she's got the ANA and the British Open coming up. I mean, how exciting. And
is there anything does she hit it spectacularly long? What is it about her?
I don't really like saying this, but it's nothing spectacular.
Yeah,
she just gets it done. I watched her a few holes in Singapore because I went out and I was like, oh, this is that chick that won on the LET event. She's not the longest hitter. She's not. It's nothing special,
She's
but
a good
just
golfer.
gets it done. Yeah.
Isn't that
So it'll be
great?
fun to watch her at these majors.
I'm disturbed, Andy, because I'm.
What about a tyre?
No, well, a bit about a tyre, but I'm more disturbed that you just played me on the break because it's going to happen so many times this year.
Did it
It's
easily.
Be embarrassing.
Did it easily. Yeah. It sort of feeds into a conversation that we had with Stephen Pitt, the CEO of Golf Australia, a couple of weeks ago. The release of the 2025 mission statement, to get women and girls into the game of golf. We spoke to Rebecca Artis, who I think had a fantastic point at the end of the chat we had with her. And it's all led you to write an unusual piece for Golf Australia, I thought, this week. And it's a terrific piece, don't get me wrong, but it was very much from the heart from you. It was a pure editorial. Tell us why you felt the need to write that.
I didn't actually start off writing it, Andy, with anything in mind other than to relay an experience, because as a bloke, and this is typical, I would imagine, of blokes playing golf at any level around Australia, you tend historically not to have had too much involvement with women, just the way it's all been set up, which is part of the problem. But I had a good mate down from Brisbane, and we went and played at a course in Melbourne recently, and we just got teamed up with a husband and wife from another capital city. I won't name the clubs or the city, but just to hear her experience when she learned of what I did, and I told her about Vision 2025, just to hear her experiences at her own golf clubs was extraordinary, just absolutely extraordinary. And I'm like, this is the problem confronting women's golf in a nutshell in my group here. And then to see the feedback from some people on the GA website, golf.org.au, about the Vision 2025, you can see that it's an endemic problem. Just that women don't get a voice, and they don't get to, by the historical manner that golf clubs are set up, don't get to be treated equally, and it was eye-opening and gut-wrenching all at the same time, and I just felt like I had to put it out there, and hopefully it reaches a few people. And I think the bottom line of what I was trying to say is speak up. If there's a problem, you've got a lot of friends. Golf Australia can't come in and rectify a specific golf club, with an iron fist. But if we hear about a problem, we can help you address it at your own club and at a local level. And I think that's a critical thing that we speak up. And I'm talking men and women. The problems that the women I play with were confronting were actually driven by females at one of the clubs.
And this is something that Curry Webb has addressed recently as well. We think that it's crusty old blokes who are protecting their patch at golf clubs. We don't want women playing on Saturdays, keep them out of my face. I don't want them getting in our way. But in a lot of cases, particularly when it came to women's pennant and women's club championships, as we were talking before we came on air, Stacey.
Yeah, like Hayesy mentioned in the article, we play it on Wednesday because that's when we play it. I remember back when I used to play pennant, it used to be on Friday. And then they started noticing that a lot were having to take days off school, days off work. It was younger people that were starting, being the top level of pennant. So they moved it to Sunday. So now they play Sunday pennant as the top grade pennant, and they still keep a Friday pennant, which is called Friday pennant. Just to keep that, that's fine. But the main pennant now is on Sundays, it's moving with the times. It's what we have to do to get our best players. You can't be missing school every Friday to play pennant. And I understand that.
And you can miss school far easier than you can take 6 hours out of your job if you're
working.
Yes,
well, that's exactly right. It's for both.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, it's just totally reflective of the way society's changed. I mean, that used to be okay because women weren't working.
Yes.
And you could get your golf done by 3 o'clock and go home and make the meal for the bloke coming home. And I mean, it sounds sexist even to have it come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
It's so pathetically old-fashioned. And I'm all for traditions in golf clubs, don't get me wrong. But that's not one we need to keep.
How they go at Shep on a Saturday afternoon or the Sands, but the old Shep Golf Club, traditional old country golf club. How would the boys go on a Saturday if suddenly women are allowed to play in the club comp on a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday morning?
Mate, women have been allowed to play on a Saturday
Perfect.
at Shepparton for a few years now.
Perfect, great.
And the same at the Sands.
Yep.
So it's...
The sky doesn't fall in.
No.
You actually get to meet some other people at the club.
They've got specific tee times that they have to stick by and, they can't go off the first, they've got to go off the 10th, which I don't believe in. If you've got a tee time, you've got a tee time. It doesn't matter where you tee off.
I think the hardest thing, Andy, was in writing this story was to think about a young girl in the area where Jane, her name was playing, wanting to go and play golf. Maybe she's seen Rebecca Artis play, and maybe she was the girl who got that glove or ball at the end of a tournament. And she goes to her local club because that's the only place she can get to because of her family setup. And she goes there and she gets told, well, unless you can play between 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, you can bugger off. That's her. That's her lost to sport forever. We can't get her back. She's cooked. That's what golf is to her now. It's a bunch of crusty old women who, are building their own little empire and couldn't give a stuff about the rest of the game, and that's inexcusable.
It's a really good read. Encourage you to go and have a read on golf.org.au of Hayesy's piece. Just before we get away from this, and this is right up your alley as well, Stacey. This is a conversation that I've had with former male pros as well, who are no longer on tour but have gone back to their clubs and would like to play pennant golf for their home clubs.
Good topic at the minute with pennant starting on the weekend, last weekend.
So, you're a member at
Victoria
at
Golf
Vic?
Club.
Yep. Are
Yep.
you allowed to play pennant at Vic?
No, I'm actually not.
Okay.
They kind of did a bit of a rough deal between the Sandbelt clubs, just a bit of a pact, I guess, that the Sandbelt clubs were not going to allow professionals to be playing pennant. That was kind of the deal when it first came in. And it's not a written rule. It was just something
Women's pennant.
No pennant across the board, men's and women. But every other Sandbelt club, bar Victoria, and I think Metro, I stand to be corrected, have not allowed a professional to play. They don't want it. They say it's not in our traditions. And
even though you're full fee paying members of the golf club.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. That's where I don't know. I feel I'm just a club member. Maybe going forward, I would like to play pennant. Okay, maybe I actually said, while I was on tour, I don't think you should be able to play when you have a full tour card. And do you really want to when you come home for a week off? I totally get that.
Yep.
But maybe me going forward, and I'm not going to be getting my amateur status back, maybe I would like to play the odd game of pennant.
Wouldn't this be great for the pennant squads? Wouldn't it be great for the girls and the women at those clubs to have a Stacey Peters playing Jarrod Lyle going back and playing pennant for the Sands or for Shep, wherever you wanted to play. Wouldn't it be great? Mark Allen at Kingston Heath.
Would you like
Mike
to play,
Clayton,
Jarrod? Would you? I don't know. What's your thoughts?
No, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it because I've played pennant. I've done all that. And for me, this is a really good opportunity for the best of the club golfer at that club to come out and showcase what they have for a 7 or 8 week period. And I don't want to come back and take that opportunity away from a 19-year-old kid.
I can see that.
Playing off +2 who's had a ripping season. And I finally come back home from doing something and go, oh, boys, because I was at Commonwealth.
Yep.
You know, and I wouldn't want to come back and say, right, I'm going to play pennant the next 3 weeks to, you know, help get in the finals. And then this 19-year-old kid who's had a ripping season misses out because I've come back.
Yeah.
What if you'd committed to the whole season?
Whole season.
Yeah, I still wouldn't do it. I still wouldn't do it because I know what it meant to me to make the senior team at Commonwealth. You know, it was a massive thrill. You know, obviously living in country Victoria and getting a chance to play senior pennant in metropolitan Melbourne was a huge achievement. And you know, I wouldn't want someone to come back in and take that opportunity away from me. And I don't want to be that person that does that.
Yeah, I see it with like more on the female side of things. Like a few of my friends are now mothers who are still professionals, you know, by books, haven't played on tour for probably 6-7 years, but want to play some competitive, you know, golf. And some are allowed because they're at certain, I won't mention names, but are at certain clubs, and then others that are members at different clubs haven't been able to have that opportunity. So I see it different. I'm more thinking, because even these girls, they're not necessarily going to be number one in the team. Gosh, no. Like my friends are probably 2-3 in the team, but the top amateurs at the club are, you know, much better golfers than them, but it just happens that they are professional, as you say.
Yeah.
So I see both sides of it. I do.
And inside the _rope. So if you're listening to this and you've got a strong view on it, feel free to let us know on Twitter. And if we get some feedback on that, we'll definitely refer to it next week. Because and this is one of those, you both make really valid points, I reckon, both of you. And it is one of those issues, I reckon, at Clubland that would split people down the middle. I'd love to see you guys playing pennant. I'd love to go on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon wandering around watching a couple of... Imagine you were drawn to play Mark Allen, for example. If Lyle's going
head... walkover.
Lyle's going head-to-head with... You know what I mean? Like guys who are still playing routine, regular club competitions at the clubs they're full fee paying members at. I think that would be... And that would only lift the standard of the potential pennant players around the golf club, I would think. That would inspire your 19-year-old plus tour. You want him to get into the team, obviously because of the impact that it had on you and it potentially would have on him or her, but it would definitely lift the standard. You got a view on this? You're sitting very quietly over there like Switzerland. You're not saying anything.
No, like I hear Jarrod's point of view and I think it's commendable. I would personally love to see it. I wouldn't want anyone to come back and just, you know...
Just for a week or two.
Just sort of Pearl Harbor in and... and take a spot. But, you know, if you're committed to a season and you're a full member, I'm pretty sure you should be able to play.
The Roger Bannister file for you two was something we initiated and instituted last week on the show, and it is our watch on slow play. We're going to put people in the file when they deserve to go in. Roger Bannister ran the mile, of course, and he passed away this week. Back in 1954, broke the 4-minute mile, which was far. It took him less time to run a mile back in 1954 than it takes JB Holmes to decide whether he's going to lay up or go for it. And he lays up. So he's our captain of our Memorial Roger Bannister file team.
Yeah, we've changed it to the Memorial in honour of the great man.
Exactly. So we put Webb Simpson in last week. We couldn't remember who we...
And it was Kevin Nah who we wanted to put in, but forgot his name, unfortunately. I apologise. That was my fault.
Okay.
And that's on top of Captain JB, he's like Don Bradman. He's out far away on his own in the averages here, so he's unlikely to not be captain at any stage.
So do you two want to put anyone on watch? We won't necessarily put them in. They have to really disgrace themselves to get into the Memorial Roger Bannister file. But is there anyone we need to just put on a little watch list?
I think we could probably put Beatrice Ricari. Okay. Just put her on the clock.
She's on the watch list.
Yeah.
Okay,
on the clock.
Okay.
She's
on the clock.
She comes to mind first from playing partners I've had in the past.
Lovely. Anyone for you?
No, I think Kevin Na's got to get put back in there.
Yeah. Oh, he's in. He's in for sure.
He's in. He's very painful. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
lovely guy, but painful.
Eamon Darcy, there's a piece that I reckon if we can continue the theme of directing people towards things online, have a read of. Eamon Darcy, former European touring pro, of course, still writes for Golf Week. Wrote a fantastic piece, trying to drop the hammer on boorish behaviour. And I won't read the whole thing out to you, obviously. Now go online and find it. But he's talking about the golf bros, this subculture and subsection of predominantly American golf fan who seems to have bobbed up. You're nodding your head like, yeah, I know who they are. The loudmouth imbecile who just wants to shout, wants to heckle. Justin Thomas last week had one removed and got hammered on some social media fronts for daring to ask to have this imbecile kind of removed from the facility. Is this clearly Eamon Darcy's moved enough to think of this as enough of an issue to address it in a column? Is this something that you've seen developing? And you're one of your great moments at Phoenix, so it's hard for you to kind of pot it in its entirety. But is this a thing that needs to be addressed?
It is. I've had a couple of memorable moments at Phoenix where obviously I've had my hole in one there, but I've had a spectator by the throat.
What happened?
Oh, he may have called something out to me that I didn't approve of on the back of the 10th green, so I went and had a friendly chat.
Where's this in the book?
You've got to get that in the book. Hang on, you need to...
Another chapter.
Okay, what happened?
We can put this in the
book.
book.
This is an exclusive snippet for Inside the Ropes. What happened? What did he say?
Oh, he called me a fat something.
Right.
That I didn't... obviously, I was fat, but the second word I didn't agree with.
So you literally went and turned around and confronted the bloke?
Yeah, after I tapped in my little 2-inch putt that I'd left short from 40 feet, and he goes, "Oh, why don't you get on a treadmill, you fat?" And I'm like, "Okay, righto." And I remember just passing my putter to my caddy, and Mick says to me, he goes, "Oh, I'll deal with it." I said, no, I'm just going to go have a friendly chat. So I went over there, had a friendly chat, and this guy's opened his mouth, and I just grabbed him by the throat, and I told him, "Don't even say a word."
Full of ink, the bloke, like just clearly, or is he just a dope?
No, he was just a dope,
Yeah.
and his mates just backed away and let him deal with it himself. So, but it's unfortunate that that's what happens at golf tournaments, and it's getting more and more regular that there's guys that go to a golf tournament, have a few too many drinks, and decide that mashed potato and bubba booey and all this kind of stuff has to be yelled out when it's got absolutely zero to do with golf, and they're just making a complete tool of themselves.
He says this, right, in Eamon's piece, he goes, he's talking to an unnamed TV announcer. I've never seen it worse, said a TV announcer friend who walked the first 2 rounds of last month's Genesis Open in LA with Thomas, Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. On the 8th hole during the first round, a spectator yelled in the middle of Tiger's backswing. Another lubricated chap rode the ropes for the entire length of the next hole, bellowing at Thomas, "Roll Tide, roll Tide, hey Justin, roll Tide." Reference to college sport over there. My announcer pal looked balefully at Joe LaCava, Tiger's caddy. "Every day," Joe sighed. "Every day." So Tiger just clearly has to deal with this idiotic golf fan who the Tiger phenomenon is by and large been seen by many as given the phenomenon that's given rise to these golf fans, because people who aren't attuned to golf etiquette just want to go to a golf tournament to see Tiger play, and they bring with them a football fan mentality or a fan mentality from somewhere else that just clearly has no place in the game. It's a really, really good read, and I'm disappointed that happened to you. That's ugly.
Yeah, well, look, it's stuff that you've got to deal with, and obviously I didn't deal with it all that well that day.
Some people would have said you deal with it. You and Davey Warner deal with it perfectly.
He was lucky I didn't hit him, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, everyone sort of looks at Phoenix as being the tournament. To have 200 and something thousand people on a golf course in one day is just, it's out of this world. And when you go there, out of that 200 and something thousand people, 190 of them don't even know there's a golf tournament. They're there to drink and carry on and do whatever.
Yep.
But, it's unfortunately sort of slipping into other tournaments now where people go there and just carry on like idiots. So,
unfortunately, Andy, this is probably highlighted by the fact that the crowds in Mexico were as good as anywhere. Like, may as well be in Scotland. They were very polite. I mean, they had some awkward moments. We saw one photographer nearly stand on Thomas's ball in the middle of the playoff, which would have been absolutely extraordinary. But there was no Bubba buoys and stuff, and it really highlighted the fact of how loud it and generalised it's become within American golf tournaments. However,
anything you want to leave us with before we wrap?
Yeah, while they might have been sort of calmish on the sidelines of the Mexican fairways, back up in the commentary booth, can't say it was always going to be the same. And we've got some, I'm going to say, the best golf commentary I've ever heard. Apologies to some, Jim Nances of the world, but the best golf commentary I've ever heard is Ross Fisher has a hole-in-one in Mexico City.
Es Ross Fisher, el británico, hoyo número 3, fierro 9, 157 yardas. Estupendo swing. Allá va. Cae muy bien. Gran aterrizaje. Corre, 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 corre. Sí, 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 sí. Hole, hole. Hoyo en uno. Ross Fisher, lo que acabas de hacer. Vean al británico.
That is magnificent.
It goes on for a little while longer, but we don't need to go any further.
That is gold.
El stupendo swing. That's what I took away from that. That is unbelievable. What do you think of that?
Good. Muy bien, muy bien.
Hey,
I'm disappointed I didn't have mine. My Phoenix one wasn't down there now, or that guy wasn't in Phoenix.
You know what you should do?
That would have topped it right off.
We can just go, Jarrod Lyle, and then just roll the rest, and you can overlay vision of yours with that commentary, and you'll have it forever.
Technology.
We can easily do that for you. We'll do
I
that
reckon that'd look really cool.
Yeah,
no, we'll do that.
We're on that.
Can we put like an audio thing in my book? So when someone opens, the Christmas cards or birthday cards or something like that?
Why not?
You
do that.
You need to go and write another chapter, clearly, after the revelations on today's show.
We do have to do one more thing, Andy, before and that is that ball debate that I sort of pushed back from the first segment.
Go on.
I know we haven't got a heap of time here, but can we... I don't know if everyone's got an opinion or they even want to vocalise it, but the ball debate rolls on. Can I give my opinion on it?
Yes, please, you can. Yeah.
We are in deep, dark danger of having another long putter saga unfold before our very eyes. I don't think there's any doubt by the language of the R&A and the USGA that they intend at some point to do something about golf technology. We all know it's not just the ball, it's driver distance, it's training, it's agronomy, it's TrackMan. There's a million different things. So I'm not pointing the bone at anyone here. As you mentioned, Titleist cops it a fair bit, and they're just part of the whole scheme of things. But the ball's clearly the thing that we can do something about that doesn't radicalise everything else in the game. So let's talk about the ball. If we don't do the ball in a cut and dried manner, this is going to be a circus, an ongoing and long-running circus. The R&A and USGA are pretty clear that I think the language is pretty clear that something is going to happen. But we need to get to the point, and this is my rant for the day, Andy, when the US PGA Tour and the PGA of America in particular shut the hell up and let the governing bodies do what they need to do. The rhetoric from these people about what they put out blockers and opinions on the research before it aired.
Yeah.
So the USPGA said, don't forget that players are now taller and younger on average than they used to be. The PGA of America, had already made up its mind that it was crap, the ruling that they didn't end up ultimately making. It goes back to the long putter debate about the intention of grounding the putter into your chest. The tours don't want to kill the golden goose here, the goose that lays the golden egg. So they're not going to pot the players. If the players want to hit 340 yards, they're going to let them hit 340 yards unless they're instructed to by the people and the proletariat of world golf, which is us. Because the governing bodies have to say something, but the tours have to enact it on their playing fields. And right now, I think it stands a great chance that that's not going to happen. And we're already bifurcated. I could talk about this until the cows come home. We're already effectively bifurcated because the effect of the ball only kicks in, and we've mentioned this 10 times already, when the swing speed gets above 112, 113 miles per hour. Choppers like me can't do that. I'm not sure what club head speed you generate.
90-something.
Jarrod,
Not
at the
yet.
top of your game.
Oh, I was about 115.
So you start to get the effects, and it goes up exponentially as it goes on. But it's not going to affect, if we change that ball, it's not going to affect what happens at the amateur level. That's the bottom line there. But don't let this circus drag on. I had someone rip into us online. Stop talking about this bloody ball. And it's true. It's true. But we need to have the courage of our convictions to make something happen and stick.
Don't we want to see every club in the bag used? That's what I just go back to that. I want to see the best players in the world have to use every club in their bag. And at the moment, they're not. They don't use 3-iron through, unless they've got a long par 3 they're playing into. They're not hitting 3-iron to 9-iron anymore. It's drivers, three woods and wedges. It's what the game's become. And I don't like watching golf played like that. I don't.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, I think something has to be done, and sooner rather than later, like just to stop everybody carrying on like pork chops.
Yeah. So one last stat, Andy, rather than just the distances and stuff which we all talk about. This is the current ball. So the launch angle of the current ball has moved up from 10.5 last year to 11.1 this year, and historically it has been higher than that once or twice before, but the trend is up. So people are hitting the ball higher with the driver. The spin rate 11 years ago was 2,814 down to 2,578. So don't worry about the numbers, because if you don't understand that stuff, it's irrelevant. The trend is to hit the ball higher with less spin. Yeah. So it's not going sideways and it's going further. I mean, it's undeniable. It's there. Some of the people the naysayers were of the stats, which is totally fair, and there's a very valid point. The stats are based on research done at Erin Hills and at Quail Hollow, where they haven't had previous tour events. And they rank it against the previous host, of that instance, of the US Open and the US PGA Championship, respectively. Erin Hills hit it a lot further than Oakmont because it's a totally different course. So the numbers get skewed. So that, I get that. That's totally fine. But let's look big picture here. It fails the eye test, what's going on right now.
Have you got a view? I mean, you're most recently part of this fraternity over on the PGA Tour. Do you have a strong view on this either way?
Oh, look, not really.
Yeah.
I still like seeing guys hit at 350 yards.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing guys like in Mexico. Like, I know you're at altitude and the ball goes a lot further, hitting it over the green of a 410-yard hole. To me, that what it's doing is it's making golf courses obsolete.
It's obscene, I reckon. I agree with you.
And that's what it's doing. And you see now with new courses being built that the holes are getting longer, which is in turn making it a lot harder for the average Joe to go out there and play on a top quality golf course.
I reckon it's going to be fascinating, Andy. I heard Jeff Shackelford talk about it on one of his podcasts yesterday, and he said there's 5 pillars of the game in essence, and that's the RNA, USGA, the US PGA Tour. This is the men's game, I apologise, but this US PGA Tour, the PGA of America, and the Masters. And right now it's 2-2. What's the Masters going to say in a few weeks' time? Because this is their time to shine, where they come out and give their State of the Nation address. Do we continue to buy land, because they're the only club in the world that can continually afford to buy land? Do we continue to do that and pander to the expanding technology, or do we make a stand?
Well, this feeds into the Shackelford, Clayton, et al. Argument about what it's doing to the great golf course designs. And if the ball is demanding of Augusta National that they have to keep changing the golf course design to keep parity with the ball, then the golf course is no longer what it was. And the stories that we all love the stories of what's he going to do on 13 and what's he going to do on, and what's going to happen here. And we know the stories. We know the stories are obsolete. They're consigned to history books, because the hole they're playing in 5 years' time is not the hole they were playing for the previous 70 years.
And for anyone
what a tragedy that is.
Yeah, 100%. And for anyone who disagrees with that notion, think about Louis Oosthuizen's shot on the second, the magnificent iron that took 35 seconds or so to get to the hole and drop in for albatross.
Exactly.
The person in 20 years' time who's hitting a 7-iron hitting darts to a pretty accessible pin, we're going to see albatrosses there
all the time. That
left,
whole
right, and centre, and it diminishes everything that's historic about the game.
Yep, here. Couldn't agree with you more. We'll let that one ruminate in the ether. And if you want to express a view, like many of you seem to want to do on this particular issue, at @inside_the_ropes is the place to go. Nice rant, Hayesy, finishing.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know where that came from.
No, it's good. We like to finish on a calm, peaceful note on Inside the Ropes. You've got us all wound up here.
Yeah, sorry
Look
about
at yourself. You've got your head's turned beetroot coloured. And you've gone and got all angry.
I should just look across at Jarrod and Stacey and be happy that we're all in a wonderful place.
Jarrod, lovely to have you on the show. Thanks for being so generous with your time again, and it's brilliant to see you looking well, mate. Let's hope the next couple of weeks are everything that you and the family want them to be. We wish you nothing but the best, my friend. Thanks for coming in.
I really enjoyed it.
All the best, mate.
Jarrod Lyle joining us, Stacey Peters. You're going to be here more often than not going forward. We can't wait to see that.
Look forward to it.
Good on you, Hayesy. Well played, my friend.
Cheers, Murray.
Thanks for tuning in. This has been Inside the Ropes, episode number 33. We'll be back to do it all again next